Welcome to the adventures of self. Conversations with ordinary and extraordinary people as they explore what it means to be self-expressed. Come on in. Join the adventure.
Welcome, Karen Darke, to the Adventures of Self.
Hi, Taylor. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you for coming on. So I'm just going to just remembered I'm going to put headphones on because sometimes, I don't know if you have headphones, sometimes the audio can bleed. But we will go ahead and
I've got a very good microphone sat here, so it's
probably... Oh, okay, fine. Oh, well, maybe you can send that file to me if you're able to do that. So thank you for coming on the show. There's a lot I want to get into, and everything centers around gold. And I know it has a special significance for you. So maybe as a way to introduce your story, we can, what is gold to you?
Yeah, it seems like it's become a fairly central theme in my life without really meaning it to. So when I was a student, I actually began studying medicine and didn't really enjoy it. And when I left the medical school at the university I was at, you walked past the Earth Sciences department. And I just remember looking up at it a few times and thinking it sounds much more fun to dig holes in the earth than in people. So suddenly ended up switching to do Earth Sciences. And oh, sorry, I'm just turning my email off because it's pinging.
Okay.
So yeah, I suddenly switched to do Earth Sciences, and that led me on. When I finished my degree, I did geology and chemistry and loved it. I was fascinated by volcanoes. When I was a kid, we lived in America for a year, and it was the year just after Mount St. Helens had exploded. And I was just really excited by the world of geology, I think. So I ended up going on and doing a doctorate in geology, and it wasn't really led by any interest in gold at all. My interest was in going to the Bolivian Andes to climb. That was my field area. But the PhD was actually all about the geology of gold in relation to climate change and various things there. So yeah, I ended up studying gold for 3 and a bit years then. And ironically, I didn't see gold the whole time. Only I think the final few weeks, I managed to see a tiny few specks of it under a big scanning electron microscope. So it was like studying invisible gold for all of that time. And after that, I had a completely different career. I worked as a geologist for a while, nothing related to gold, but finally left that and had this vision of getting to a Paralympic Games when I found out that the Paralympic Games was in London in 2012. And I saw a British woman win gold in Beijing in 2008. And I just got this, I call it having a wibber, a wouldn't it be amazing idea. And I get tingles down my spine when I get them. And it was like, wouldn't it be amazing to try and go to a Paralympics just to take part? So there began a journey of the last, 12 years or something. And I got to London, won a silver, and then had no intention of carrying on, but suddenly found that there was a system in the UK that I could be supported to be a full-time athlete. And so I just thought, okay, let's go for Rio. Didn't have any vision of gold. I didn't really believe I could do it, I think. But partway along that journey, I suddenly thought, if I'm ever going to win a gold medal, it could be in Rio. It's a really perfect race course for me. I had a previous connection with Rio where it's another story. And I was there and was chopped open by a spirit surgeon sort of 16 years previously. So I had this kind of feeling of a connection with Rio and just invented this idea that I called it Project Gold. So it wasn't that I really believed that I could. I just believed there was a possibility that I could. And so, yeah, began that journey and lived and breathed gold for 2 years, just Project Gold, bought gold shoes, gold mugs, gold laptop covers, gold, just filled my life with gold, even though I don't really like it. I don't think I ever bought any gold jewelry. And then even though in the run up to Rio, quite a lot of things on the surface of it went wrong. I got an injury just before flying to Rio. My chain fell off in the middle of the race. So there was like, logically, There was no reason why I was even going to get a medal, let alone gold. But somewhere I just had this kind of thing that I just had to keep going, and somehow felt really solid inside myself around it. And yeah, at the end of the race, threw a towel over my head, not in any emotion, just hot, sweaty, and sat there thinking, I don't think I even made the podium. Like, so much for all of that visualization and imagination that I had. And then, yeah, the team manager came along and ripped the towel off my head and called out gold. And that was the beginning of then another big journey, because there'd been a joke with the team all summer about the number 79. That began with me asking for drinks extra hot and a barista telling me to ask for them at 79 degrees because that was the hottest he could make them. And in Rio, I then realized that I'd won the 79th medal for Britain. And I'd forgotten that 79 is the chemical number of gold in the periodic table. And this idea came, I wasn't even trying, it just came, to do this thing called Quest 79. I love the idea of quests, that we go on a journey and we discover something. And after years of training for the Paralympics, I think I'd really missed travel and cultures, other cultures and things. And so I decided that I would try and cycle across 7 continents and encourage other people to do their own quest, with the belief that when we step out of our comfort zone and do something a bit stretching for us, then magical things happen. We discover the inner gold inside ourselves, perhaps, qualities about ourselves that we never knew we had. And I suppose, most of my lifetime, people have said to me, oh, it's amazing what you do, it's so inspiring. And I just kind of want to say to people, it's nothing special about me, you can do it too. And it's just this idea that sometimes we limit ourselves. And even the night actually before I had the rock climbing accident that paralyzed me, I was telling some friends that I couldn't imagine anything worse than being paralyzed. I'd rather be dead than paralyzed. And 12 hours later I was. So I think there's just this kind of repeating pattern that I've had at times and other people have, that we just limit ourselves. And really, when we have passion and just try and put the work in, then I just think it's incredible what we can achieve. And I really don't know where the limits lie.
Well, there's thank you for that introduction. You've packed a lot into the few minutes we've started talking, so it's very, very inspirational even to begin with. And what I the thing that speaks to me is the thing around possibility. And in the work I do, when we talk about possibility, but I kind of geek out on words sometimes. And possibility, sometimes when we think of possibility, people think, oh, well, that's just kind of like a long shot, or it's only possible, it's it's not probable, but possibility goes to the root of power, like potency. It's it is, if it's a possibility, then it's not that it's sort of some far-fetched thing. If you can imagine it, then it's a step into actually creating it.
One of my favorite quotes is the one by Goethe. Do you say it?
Yeah.
What you
Goethe.
Dream or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And it goes on. But I do think that if we can imagine something, then it's possible. And maybe not probable, but I think the more that we keep connecting with that possibility in our thoughts and our emotions, and the more probable it becomes.
Yeah, when I'm working with clients, I talk about whatever we come up with a vision of what it is from somebody's heart, right? It's one thing to say, oh, I want £1 million, or I want this kind of house, but often that is a sentiment that's outside of ourselves, right? It's something that we've taken on from society, or our parents, or our friends, or our partners, and we're kind of chasing after something that's not really true to us. And I like what you were talking about. There's an inner goal, right? That when we actually are able to connect with our inner gold, right, and imagine that possibility coming out, then I don't know how, I don't know why, and it, as you say, it's not that it's always going to happen, but in that connection, in the connection to the emotion, in the connection to the visualization, the imagination, the possibility, there's this spin of magic that
Totally
can totally transform something that wasn't there into something that is in some ways
Yeah.
sort of beyond our certainly my feeble mind to understand and comprehend.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And when I look at Quest 79 and where it's come from and where it's leading me, I don't feel like I'm leading it. It's kind of strange. And actually, it was only, I think, the year before last, when I discovered, I was kind of scratching my head about Antarctica because I couldn't find, you described finding that emotion about going, and I couldn't find it because it's basically a super expensive place to get to. It's a continent that's, kind of really need to protect and preserve. And I couldn't kind of find a justification to myself. It's like, I don't feel it for going to the South Pole. You just need to be rich and go and trek the last degree or something. Like, I don't know, none of it appealed. And then suddenly I discovered that 79 degrees latitude and longitude is in Antarctica. And that was it. And I was like, I really want to go. That we have to go to that point where these two things cross. And it turned out it's about 79 nautical miles from one of the bases that you can fly into. So, it could have been thousands of kilometers away, but suddenly it was also very accessible and doable. So, yeah, it's funny how things magic is happening, I think.
Yeah, and often it is just about, I was talking to somebody last night about the perception. It's like, what are we actually perceiving? And that when we actually allow it, those connections, those possibilities open up for us, right? You indicated that it wasn't something you really thought about, but you can trace. I was looking at you and looking some information, and I thought it was interesting that back when you started in geology, you were actually researching gold. It's nice to have the context of that, because on some level you can see that the thread is there, and something is pulling or drawing you to that, and why would a barista suggest that you should only be able to get the coffee or something at 79 degrees, unless you are attuning to that possibility. And
funny you should bring up the word possibility, because the point in Antarctica that we're aiming to go to, 79 is, I've called it the pole of possibility. So
yeah, I saw that. And because when you mentioned earlier, you said something about cycling 7 continents. I thought, well, that seems certainly rather challenging on one of them, but
Antarctica, I am actually having a special bike designed which might work on the ice and the snow, so that's yet to be seen because it's stuck in Israel of all places and I can't go and try it at the moment. So it may well be that cycling happens there, but if not, it'll be skiing. So
yeah, because you've done quite a lot of skiing as well, right? Yeah. And you spoke about how you were injured in an accident, I think climbing, right?
Yeah.
And when I hear the things that you've done, the Paralympics, and going to decide to cycle 7 continents and go on quests like this, I mean, I know you say on the one hand that anybody can do that, and maybe that's true, but I look at it and think, wow, that takes a particular type of mentality or focus to think, well, this is what I want to go do, to prove to myself what's possible.
Yeah, you see, that's where I get misinterpreted all the time, I think. So a long time ago, I spent 3 months cycling through Japan. It was in 2000. And there was a Japanese TV crew following us all the way. And the producer for 3 months kept asking me, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And I started by the end of it to think, am I trying to prove something? Like, am I really messed up in the head here or something? But honestly, I've done so much work on myself, like inner work. Honestly, I just love an adventure, and I love to be outside. I love to be in mountains and special places. I love to discover. I love to take journeys with friends. And I think it's as pure as that. I don't think I can think some things early on after being paralyzed, but not big challenges, more just day-to-day things where I was kind of fiercely independent and needed to know that I could live independently and things. And my first very big trip was 3 years after becoming paralyzed, and that was hand cycling across the Himalaya. And I think that one for me was, it was a proving to myself that adventure was still possible and that I didn't have to live in a world of just concrete and tarmac anymore. And so it was, I think that was like a rite of passage for me. I really felt on that journey that it was just so liberating to realize that I could take a journey without any vehicles, with a small group of friends, and really have a real adventure crossing mountains and kind of being in the wilderness. But again, it was that connection to that environment that pulled me there, that made me want to do it. But yeah, I don't think, maybe a psychologist would say differently, but I don't think I've ever been really doing anything to try and prove anything.
Well, I think ultimately you know yourself better than anybody else, even a psychologist. So it's really interesting to hear that, it's not from this kind of pushing or proving. It is just from a choice of how what you want to do and how you choose to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when is the maybe everything with pandemics a little bit off, as we were sort of talking about before we started. When is the Polar Possibility planned for?
The plan is January 22, so next January.
And right, so they're summer. And one of the things that you have created is this Quest 79 that is inspiring people all over the world to start their own quests. And what are some people choosing to do with that?
Well, we were on Mallorcan television this morning because somebody I know here, a good friend, has decided to run up the mountain behind the village 79 times. And when she suggested it, not all in a day, not in one go, she just, it's a mountain that I have a special connection with because I've named it after my great aunt Margaret, who, thanks to her, I can be in Mallorca in many ways. And my friend goes up there regularly, but initially she said, I'll see if I can do it in 3 months, because it's quite a decent mountain. It's a couple of hours each time you go. Anyway, she's now done 66 and she's going to finish next Sunday on 79. She's doing at least a couple a day, really.
Wow.
So yeah, that's one example. And that was kind of maybe inspired by a 10-year-old boy in Scotland who heard me talk about it on the radio, and he decided to climb 79 peaks in 79 weeks. And he wasn't even a mountain climber. He didn't particularly like doing that kind of thing. But then now there's lots of unusual and different ones coming in, from people planting 79 trees, 79 acts of kindness, 79 days of journaling, gratitude, meditation, lots of things that are just, not necessarily physical things, and just really nice. And I've been trying to encourage people that I don't want it to be just this kind of like hard, enduring physical thing, that I want people to do something that they feel excited about doing more of, and that it will bring them something special. And not everybody is physical, so yeah.
I like the sort of softness of it. I think gold's a soft metal as well. So when you work with it, because yeah, as a man in my own sort of challenges, I tend to sometimes think that, I've got to do something that's very difficult and challenging, and there may be some reward in that, but there's also probably some considerable dysfunction in that of what I believe I need to do in order to be accepted in myself or anything else. And I've been thinking about your talent since we met, and sort of thinking what I would like to do as my own Quest 79. I have actually started this year. I do end of year sort of completions or reviews, and one of the things that came out of it was to do 30-day challenges for various things, and using intuition, I just tuned into, well, what is it I would like to do, right? Not this kind of let me go climb a mountain peak every day, which would be challenging in
the middle of London.
go up and down Hampstead Heath 79 times maybe. And the first thing I did was a breathing technique, so the Wim Hof breathing technique, which I wrote a blog post about, because my initial impression, I had sort of this image of him. It's just so interesting how we assume something, right? Like I had assumed, he's this Iceman and doing all these kind of crazy things that he, is able to do through breathing, right? Which he says also anybody can learn it. And I sort of had this assumption that in order to even do the breathing, it would be some, heroic challenge. And all I had to do was, watch a 10-minute video of him just breathing in and out, and then holding his breath on the out breath 3-4 times, however many times you want to do it, and getting a nice endorphin rush and feeling relaxed. And what I, in the 30 days I did it in January, there's something really, like, I don't know, welcoming, warm, nourishing to create that practice. I found that, because there were times, after day 12 or 17 or whatever it was, I thought, I'm kind of done with this, right? And I thought, no, I'm just, it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes a day, and I'm going to continue. And so that by the time day 31 came around, right, I had the choice to stop. And I thought, oh, well, but I actually enjoy this. Why would I stop doing this? And so I've continued to do it. And maybe someday I will choose to stop then. I'll probably at least go 79. Although I don't know that that's my challenge. But I do like the sense that, yeah, because oftentimes, there are these challenges that are out there, and it's kind of, pushing people to prove something and be really hard. And I'm not saying that may have its time and place, but there's also something really, really beautiful just to have something you choose, right? That's just for the sake of it.
Perfect.
I mean, when you were learning to readapt to things, I know you've climbed mountains, as you said, you've cycled across continents, and learned to swim. Is it, I mean, I guess maybe I'm going back to the question I asked before about, is it just the emotion of wanting to be outside and enjoying those things that?
I think there's a combination. Like, I love moving my body. I love feeling fit. And I think because I can't feel 3/4 of my body in the regular way, sort of from chest down, if I suppose, like any form of movement or exercise moves our energy. So if I'm just sat in a wheelchair all day and not doing anything else, like even getting my body into different positions, and I feel really stagnant. So I just like to be in different positions and moving and feeling my body and feeling it in the elements. And it's not, I think a lot of people mistake me for just being like some total hardcore, like push to the breaking point. And I have done that sometimes, but that's not really what I'm about. And, all the things I've done and the challenges I've done, they're much more about companionship and nature and an adventure. That's really what kind of drives me, I think.
Yeah, and I know one of the things, because you work with people, sort of mindset coaching, and you say, ability is a state of mind. And I think the experiences we have, certainly as an able-bodied person, right? I can think, oh well, and I'm sure you felt, as you said, like even the night before your accident, you thought, well, the last thing you would want to be is paralyzed. You'd rather be dead than paralyzed. And yeah, there is an assumption. I feel an assumption that my ability to walk or do things with the rest of my body makes me a particular thing, rather than actually acknowledging that it all comes through the mind. And so you can be perfectly able-bodied and sit on the couch all day and do nothing, or you can have some physical limitation and choose to be an adventurer.
Today I was writing some content for one of my coaching programs, and it's not something that I've it's the first time I've really sat down and properly created a program that I want to take people through. And I find it really interesting because so many people ask me to give motivational talks and to talk about motivation, but really for me, as soon as we're kind of like, most people go about motivation like kicking their own backside to try and do something, and because they think they should, or because everyone else does, or because maybe that would be the right thing to do. And really, it's just all about finding the inspiration inside of you, and that, connecting with your why you want to do something. And as soon as you've got that, as soon as that kind of clicks in place like a jigsaw puzzle, then I just find then the motivation is not a problem. So, for example, I'm training for my third Paralympics just now, and each 4-year cycle, the motivation has been really, really different. And I've never missed it until this last cycle. So there was like a year or two after Rio where I hadn't lost motivation to be outside and ride my bike, because I love that, but I totally couldn't find a connection. So I was going through the motion, doing the training, but it's like I hadn't put the wires together. The spark wasn't there. And then suddenly, about 18 months ago, it just came without really looking for it. And I realized that what my inspiration was and what the why was. And then now I'm like enjoying it so much, and it's not a problem, and I'm not pushing myself, and it doesn't feel like hard work. Whereas before it was feeling like really hard work.
Yeah, it's something I've noticed in my own work and working with clients, that, and there's an intangible aspect to it, but when you're kind of on it, that you're on the path of truth, because it's just kind of opening up in front of you. And you said earlier something that I've certainly heard. Very accomplished, whether it's composers or artists or people who create something, speak about the fact that they don't really feel that what they're doing is coming from them, or they don't really understand how it's happening. So somebody will sit down to write a chapter of a book, and if you try to write the chapter of the book that you think needs to be there, you'll struggle and you'll end up writing a pile of dung. And if you just allow whatever it is, that inner goal, that inspiration, to, when you get out of your own way and allow that to come through, there's a part of you that feels like it was there, but not really doing the thing, that something else was flowing through you.
Yeah, no, I get it completely. And actually, it feels liberating the last, I don't know, either like last 2-3 years. I've become much more aware of when it feels like something's happening or not happening. And rather than try and push through and force myself, like for example, last night I was with my computer, I had loads of things to do, and I just was not feeling it at all. I just shut it. It's like, that's it. I'm not even going to try, because it's forcing it. It'll be hard work. I'm not going to enjoy it. And then I woke up early and just blasted like so many things in the space of 2 hours this morning, that, yeah, I kind of think it's really worth just tuning into yourself and feeling when it's there and when it's not there, and just not pushing too hard when it's not, and enjoying yourself in those times when it's not. Go away and do something that you enjoy, and get that kind of flow and creativity back, and then go back to it.
Yeah, I think, the concept of flow and creativity, I'd spent years working in corporate environment, and didn't really think about, well, it might have been sort of a concept of workflow, but definitely not creativity. And what I realize now, particularly when I'm talking to clients, is to really be aware, right? Like if you're not in a particular frame of mind, or whatever it is, to deal with a particular task, trying to make yourself that is just going to limit. It's going to frustrate you even that much more. Whereas if you just let it be what it's going to be. Okay, I'm frustrated, I'm tired, this is not going to work, I'm going to shut the computer down. I had one of those moments last week as well. I had all these things on my list of things to do. It was Friday, I was going to do them all, I hadn't done them all week, and I just got to last Friday, and by noon I was just exhausted, and I thought, what is me trying to push through going to do? So similarly, I shut the computer down, I think I turned the TV on, found a movie to watch, relaxed, and just let that be. And as you say, like, similarly, by the next day, I was in a very different place to deal with, or to even want to um, approach the things that were on my list of things.
It's just listening to what is, accepting it, and trusting that when your intention's there, it'll get done in a very easy, effortless way when the time is right.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that kind of certainly trips or has tripped me up, is that I don't think it should be easy, because the things I've accomplished in the past came from struggle and pain and pushing very, very hard.
It's getting in the way.
What's that?
Well, maybe there's a deep-seated belief that's getting in your way occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what happens to all of us, right? I mean, when we get out of that way, when we, because that to me comes from a limited sense or past understanding of what I'm capable of. And I think that's the thing about, when I look at possibility, if I just assume from what I've done in the past, then I may look at something from a task I have to do tomorrow, where it's stepping out and doing something different. I may say, well, that's impossible because I haven't done that before. And it's bringing all my past understanding into that. Whereas, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, if we just say, well, it's possible, I've imagined it. By imagining, winning gold or accomplishing this task I've put to myself, climbing 79 peaks in 79 weeks, or even doing Wim Hof for 79 days, whatever the thing is, if I've imagined it, well, then it's possible. And that puts me in a, I don't know, it's interesting. I keep wanting to say mindset, although I just remembered that we were talking on Clubhouse a couple of weeks ago about how I actually struggle with this, because although there is a mind component to it, to me, it's actually what the heart's doing. And so it's heart set.
For me, it's the combination of what you're doing with your thoughts and what you're doing with your emotions. And when they become aligned, then everything gets, so it's kind of heading downstream instead of upstream.
Yeah. The energy is flowing through you, and sometimes, like sometimes when I've been writing, I can sort of be fighting uphill to write something, because it has to be a particular way, or I assume it needs to be something. And when I get out of that way and focus on, with the heart, aligning the heart and the mind, as you say, it's actually difficult to keep up, because the words are flowing so fast that I'm just, it's the limitation is my ability to write or type.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I know you speak about sort of motivation, and what's next for you?
You know what? People often say to me, what next, as if I've got some kind of big hit list going, and I really don't. Like, everything I've ever done and everything that's ever happened just happened. But I don't really have like clear plans. But that said, something amazing has kind of started to become clear that will probably take the next 4 to 5 years of my life in a particular direction, which is really interesting, because again, it feels like it's happened and I didn't. So there's 3 countries that I've always wanted to spend time in, and I've got the guidebooks and the maps for all of them. I've had them for quite a long time, and I've not got any plan to go, and I've never actually got it sorted. And I've also had this name in mind for quite a long time, Challenge for Change. And I've never really done anything with it. I thought, maybe, would I write a book called that? I don't know, not really, maybe. Anyway, and then just a few weeks ago, I got a phone call from the Spinal Injuries Association, who I've been fundraising for through my Quest journeys, to say that they'd invented a project called Challenge for Change. And it's going to last about 4 years. And And there's a number of big projects, as in adventures, each year to sort of really raise awareness of spinal cord injury and also of what's possible. And they would like the Pole of Possibility to be one of those challenges. And subsequently came the 3 countries I've had in mind and had maps and guidebooks for quite a while. So yeah, Bhutan, Mongolia and Cambodia.
So Bhutan,
Mongolia,
yeah,
and Cambodia.
And and those countries came about from your suggestion or from the spinal cord?
I've had them in mind.
Yeah.
I was due to go to Cambodia with my dad when he had his 60th birthday, but he had a stroke and we had to cancel it all, so it never happened. And then Bhutan and Mongolia are just 2 countries I've been fascinated by for years. And they've come up with Cambodia and Mongolia, and then they said, and we'd like to do something in the Himalayas. And I was like, that'll be Bhutan then.
And so it's another example, because I mean, we've spoken a few times, and I love how the synchronicities or the serendipity of things, as if you were, it goes to this, it's like I'm imagining or wanting or, imagining the possibility of going to Mongolia and Cambodia, and the focus on that brings that into your life.
But you know what even surprises me is it's not even, you don't even need to have that much focus.
No.
Maybe if someone said to me, after Tokyo, after the Pole of Possibility, what might you want to do? And it's like, oh, I definitely want to go to Mongolia and Bhutan. I've been saying that and I've got the books. And then suddenly, but I also have been saying, I don't really want to go there just to do Karen on some mission to cross. Like it feels like I want to do something that's more connected with other people and got more meaning. And then suddenly this whole thing has arrived. So it just it blows my mind, if I'm honest. I'm sometimes just like, oh my goodness, how did that?
Yeah, I think that you're right. It doesn't really take that much focus. It's planting the seed and intention and let it do what it's going to do. I mean, as you said,
yeah. And I mean, if you listen to stuff on ideas of manifestation and law of attraction and all that kind of stuff, and it's not something I've deliberately really, like, I don't work hard to at these things, but I am now aware of these kinds of ideas, but it just seems like my life does work that way.
I mean, certainly in what I've learned about you and the stories I've heard, it does. And
but to be honest, what's interesting is a lot of people say, oh, your life it's like magic, it just happens. I kind of want to say, but it can be like that for everybody. It's yours too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of the things that we're sort of trying to uncover here on this podcast is the adventure that is possible for everybody. I don't think I've got any special powers. We're all. I think some people think that I must have some, just lots of luck, or I don't know, or the kind of weird magic happens. But yeah. I think it's there for all of us. One of the things that we say in creativity or magic is that creativity is making connections that haven't been made before, and when you have a focus on something, somehow those connections they're kind of always there, but it's whether we're attuned to them. And I can look at my own life and things that come up for me. I was thinking about this in terms of like the work I do and how I had an assumption about the type of work I was supposed to be doing, and like that I had to go from step one now and go through all this hardship to get to the final stage that I want to be in, whatever, someday, rather than just sort of, skipping all that intermediate stuff and saying, well, why don't you just go to the thing I want to do now? Because if that's possible, like, because there's sort of some old program that says, well, you got to go through steps 2 through 37, and they got to be hard and challenging, and you got to really prove yourself. But if you get to whatever it is, step 79, and the gold's there, I think, because what's interesting in your story, like the Rio gold, is you had a focus. You had this gold focus, which you didn't think it was probable, but you thought it was possible, right? And so that's a focus. were you identified? Did it, if you hadn't gotten that, would it have meant anything about you?
I don't know. I think if I hadn't, I would have. I don't know is the answer. But what I do know is that because it did happen, it gave me belief that believing works, and that felt like a huge thing to me. It was like, really, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, we talk about how it's the end result of something and the emotion of the end result that really calls it into your life, not trying to figure out how, because the how is, our limited mindset, our kind of rational mindset, trying to figure out a plan, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about how, you got injured right before you got on the plane, the chain came off, all these things, you would assume, oh, well, I did my best, and it was fun. But, I don't think that it's a coincidence that you would create that gold for yourself.
Well, it's interesting now because I do have an emotional kind of connection, not kind of, I have a real feeling for Tokyo. I cycled through Japan and actually went under Mount Fuji many years ago, and that's where my race will be, on a Formula One racetrack there. But everything looks like it's stacked against me. So it's a hilly course, and I don't traditionally seem to go that well on hilly courses, although I have done in London. It was very hilly. I was dropped from the team, the last World Championships that happened, which was the end of the year before last. But the same day that I was dropped from the team, I got a phone call from Williams Formula One to say, we want to make you another race bike for Tokyo. And I said, I've just been dropped off the team. And they said, yeah, but do you want to go? Yeah. So we believe in you. We want to make it. So I was like, okay. And at the moment, the team have entered me onto the long list for Tokyo, but they refused to take me back into the team. So it's just this really interesting place where the external terrain in many ways is saying, don't go. And they don't believe that I can put in a performance that they, put in a medal performance there. And yet I feel this, people have been saying to me, oh, you got to keep going and prove them wrong. But that energy doesn't work for me. That's not a motivation for me. That's just kind of like some forced feeling. But I have a feeling for it, and I have no idea if I'm going to get there, if there'll be at the Paralympics even. I don't know, but I just sense that I will be, and I sense that it will happen, that I will be there, and that I will win a medal. And none of it is logical at all. So.
Yeah, and yeah, it's there is a sense, there I've read other stories. I think there's a famous story of Jim Carrey, right, who decided he was going to make $10 million. I mean, it's sort of an arbitrary thing, but he decided that, and he was still sort of a stand-up comedian. And what he did at some point, in order to give him this focus, this thing to focus on, was he wrote himself a check for $10 million, and he kept it in his wallet, and every now and then he would take it out and look at it. And it coincided with the time when his career completely skyrocketed. He went, sort of his early movies, Ace Ventura and some other things, and that almost to the day that he, sort of in the future, he'd written some, whatever the year was, almost to the day he had, signed a contract with whatever the movie agency was that for $10 million, right? And he's gone on his own journey, right? To say, well, that's not really about that, but to underpin that it was true, right? Because it's like you say, it's not what compels you to do the Japan Paralympics.
What is it that's connected with?
What inside you?
Yeah, so when I spent the 3 months cycling through Japan, I fell in love with the country. It's an incredible place. I really felt the kind of soul of it, and I just love the contrast. Yeah, anyway, so I feel this real connection with it myself. my first ever book was published in Japan, in Japanese, not in English. And also there's a company called Braun, who are a medical company who make catheters and surgical supplies and things. And they've supported me all the way through my Paralympic journey, and particularly with one CEO who was there the whole time. And he has a very strong attachment to Tokyo. He developed the whole Japanese business there. And so I shook hands with him as well and said, we're going to go to Tokyo together. And then I just like the image of Mount Fuji, and you know the famous image of the artwork of the wave, the kind of big wave in Japan. They're just things that I keep having in my mind. They just come to mind all the time. And actually, just last summer, I was sorting through some old stuff in my cupboard, and I found these two wall hangings, which were exactly those two things. And the one of Mount Fuji just feels so symbolic, because it's just I just imagine myself being there with this kind of, whenever I'm training, I just have this projection from my mind that goes kind of right through the middle of me, right through the middle of the podium, and right through the middle of Mount Fuji. So
that's a beautiful image and sense, right? To just get how that projection, how that possibility, how that imagination works. I lived in Japan for 2 years, so I'm giving you my energy for that as well. I love how the stories of each of the Olympics, right? They have a story for you. The reason I asked that question, it was sort of a leading question, because somebody could think, well, like you were saying, some people say, oh, you've got to do this to prove them wrong, or you've got to do this to prove your ability. And I don't know, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But what's beautiful is, you had a particular attachment to London, and being supported in the British sports pantheon. I know the British Olympics is sort of set up as one of the real success stories in terms of like supporting athletes, and your connection to, was it the witch doctor in Rio, and that it's not about maybe there's something else of wanting to win a gold, but that it's your connection to the place that comes through your heart is what.
Yeah, and it's not only the connection to the place, but also the connection to something inside me. So London was just this, like, it just felt like, wouldn't it be amazing to just take part in a games, especially one in my own country. And then Rio, it all became like, I'm always fascinated by how we learn and develop as human beings. So it was, is it possible to really focus so much on how you do things that you can get to be that much better and win a gold? Like, really? Because my first races, there wasn't even a finish line anymore. I was so bad. So that was kind of the project. And then this time with Japan, there's more than just my feeling of the connection with the country. And it's really about, I've had this last 4 years being feeling much more in tune with my body in general and with my heart, and just taking space to really connect with everything within. And I believe that if we're doing that and we're kind of connecting to, I don't know, something greater than ourselves, I don't really know, but it feels like if every cell in your body is happier because there's less tension in your body. And like, it's amazed me this last few years, I go for physio, but there's really nothing wrong. Like, there's maybe a few muscles that are just a bit tight, as they would be from training, but there's no real imbalances in my body. And I don't get how that is. But then I think, well, yeah, but if we're trapping energy in our body because we're not processing emotions, and now I am doing. And so I do a lot of stuff where, I'll notice there's something that feels stuck emotionally, and I'll lie on the sofa or take some time to feel it. And then I might have a really big cry or a really big dance, or I don't know what. And then it's like, oh, okay, I feel better now. And it seems to have created this balance in my body where I don't have the same tension. So I'm excited, thinking, well, what can you do when your cells in your body are so much happier than maybe they have been before? Surely you can perform even better if you're like that. Well, let's go and try and see. So
amazing. I was just reading the book Letting Go by David Hawkins. I don't know if you know the book. And because he talks about something like that, right? We hold we hold things in our body, right? So if we have an emotion, it's anger or fear or love, right? That emotion has a particular energy to it. It has a vibration to it, and that if we're holding that inside of us, right? You're doing that with trillions of cells, right? Every single cell is dealing with the vibration, the emotion of, say, anger versus the emotion of love or peace. And not to give it away too, not that it takes too much, but he says, you let that go, right? And you can be aware, however you do that, whether it's through a cry, whether it's through a dance, because emotions come up. We're human, right? Things come up. People cut us off in the street, or we get a bill we didn't expect, and whatever it is, and we have an emotional response to that. And if, rather than holding on to that, is to be with that emotion, to really allow the fullness of it, and when we do, it has an ability to pass through us, and then we're on to a different possibility. We're on to a different sense of ourselves. Yeah. And I just it also reminded me, because with dancing and shaking, it's something that animals do naturally. When you watch an animal, right, they will literally shake off something.
That's what I do every morning. So there's an energy chiropractor in Parma, David Biddle, that I've worked with for many years now, or for about 7 years. And he's invented a technique called resonance, which is basically sending waves through your body, kind of a vibration. And I do it every day, and I think it just, I feel stuff just moving through, leaving. It's kind of, sort of, in a way, I force the movement, but I also just pick music that I feel like that feels right for that day when I'm doing it. So some days it's really fast, some days it's slower, and it's a fantastic technique to process stuff. And
it's called resonance.
Resonance. Yeah, he's writing a book about it at the minute, because it's not many people know about it. I'm very fortunate to know him and know the technique.
Well, I'm not surprised again that you seem to call these things into you, or are aware that they are around you, and know how to tune into them, or choose to. Cool. Karen, I know you need to go, and I want to thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you for an interesting conversation. Good.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And I look forward to connecting with you again.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, go on, be adventurous. Click the subscribe button. And join us next week for a new adventure. Until then,